different spin, which seems kind of ironic because Freddie and Fannie and AIG probably have more to do with everything that's occurred. He was the caretaker there, but he's going to save us from the undue speed of the president getting involved in what normally is congressional process. Then there's a third player. We have Ben Bernanke. Nobody's obviously talking to him because the president or Mr. Frank ultimately think institutions shouldn't be on the boob of the government. But Ben Bernanke keeps giving it very sweet milk and keeping rates unbelievably low. Let's throw in a fourth player.
Ben Bernanke is not an instrument of Mr. Frank or Mr. Obama, Rick. I mean, Ben Bernanke is an independent party.
But if the first two are right, how can the president look the camera in the eye, make all these potential solutions to problems I still don't think anybody is truly on target with, while the Fed is continuing to finance those said institutions by our own tax dollars?
So you're saying based on Bernanke's actions or lack of action right now with easy monetary policy, he is right and the president and Congress
I think they're all wrong.
All right.
I think the reason that this is such a mess, and the last character, of course, is Mr. Timothy Geithner, who couldn't explain to Elizabeth Warren 3 weeks ago who was involved in systemic risk or why we had to bail out counterparties, but according to a Reuters report, he's a little upset that the president is addressing and putting forth solutions that don't actually address what caused the problems. So we have four very powerful people that aren't on the same page. Less is more is what many in the electorate want. It seems as though there's a tone-deaf Washington in just about every respect. But hey, we have the fast money crew. There's got to be boatloads of trades here.
Rick, I find myself agreeing with almost everything you said, which puts me on an unusual spot. But I do think there are some issues with the banks. I do think they're too big to fail. I do think they're too big to fail. So what would you do if they were to have another advisor, Rick Santelli, address some of the structural issues at the banks that really almost take us to the...
I'm glad you asked. I would have never given anybody bailouts. I wouldn't have bailed out counterparties to funnel money to the Goldmans, now to be beggar thy Goldman, because they decided it was a... Here's what I do. I regulate the products. Pure and simple, okay? Over-the-counter derivatives, securitization, those are the characters that made this mess. I would regulate products through very harsh capital requirements.
That's a good answer.
Move on.
Well, I mean, Rick, I agree with you too, but I'm surprised that you're surprised over the inconsistency. I mean, the White House is in a political maelstrom. I mean, there's no place to go. This was very expected. I mean, this is the pivot after health care. This is the bookends of earnings. Before they said they warned us before earnings. They warned the banks before earnings. If you don't slash bonuses, we're coming back at you. He basically said, this is, if you think it's business as usual, it's not. And therefore, I'm not surprised at all by today's response. There's a legislative process that has to follow this. I think, I'm worried about policy failure as much as anybody, and that's what today's market responded to. But again, this is an overreaction because they can't push this through. They won't be able to get this through. And I think if you're surprised at what happened today, you shouldn't be.
Well, you know what? Hey, Rick, you said something great. I think that was Tim. You said we should have expected this. But the problem is, I think that the American public expects more, and they're going to let people know. Sunday,
I don't.
Tuesday, the message was less is more. I think that needs to still sink into Washington. And then to cap it all off, gang, the Supreme Court's going to allow corporations to throw more money at politicians. This is unbelievable. What a day.
All right, Rick, always good to hear your opinions.